Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing okay. So today is Saturday morning. So for me, that generally means that it's houseplant chore day. So I thought I'd do this video, take you along with me, and show you the things that I get up to on a Saturday morning to look after my plants. So I think most of my plants need a watering now that the spring is here, getting a little bit warmer. So I've got my trusty moisture meter here. So I always stick that into the soil of my plants just to probe whether they do actually need water, and then water from there. I've also got a few plants that need a bit of a tidy up after the winter, a bit of a prune, so I'll show you that. And then down here, I've got some small little plants that need a bit of an uppotting, so I'll show you what I'm going to do with those as well. So let's get to it. So I think I'll start by doing some pruning of some of my house plants that need it. So up here on my kitchen windowsill, got this Syngonium that I recently uppotted in a video. Check out that video, guys. I'll link to it in the description. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a tidy up. So before I uppotted this plant, there was a few leaves that were looking a little bit limp around the edges, and I thought that they might respond, might perk up once I uppotted it, but a few of these haven't, so they must have been past gone. There's a couple of yellowing leaves in there as well for some reason, so they're not going to add anything to this plant, so I'm just going to go through and cut them back near the base of the plant. This one feels a bit limp actually, so it's a good job I'm doing that. So these little straggly ones, they're just making the plant look untidy, and just cut them out. That'll just encourage new growth to come from the plants. Really faded one right there, coming right from the middle, so I'll cut that away. So it's always a good idea just to give your plants a bit of a clean, a bit of a tidy up after winter, because they won't be looking their best because it's been a few months since they were putting out new growth. They don't tend to grow that much during the winter. Now that spring's here, tidy them up, cut away anything dying or diseased, and the plant will respond by putting out fresh new growth. So I'm just going through, picking out the limp ones. There's that yellow one in the middle. Not sure why that's gone yellow. Must have been when before I uppotted it. Nutrient deficiency in the previous soil because it was so root bound. Okay, that's looking a bit nicer, I think. On my dining room fireplace mantle, I did notice that this Calafea had a browning leaf, so I was going to come through and get rid of that. So it's that guy there, looking a bit shriveled up for some reason, probably not enough humidity. So I'm just going to come through and get rid of that, like so. So I don't think there was any others on here, and the others look okay. But they are starting to get a little bit brown around the edges, so I might have to do something to increase the humidity of this plant. I've got a video on Calafea care, so check out that video, guys. It explains why you get crispy brown edges on the leaves of a Calafea. Just on my Philodendron Birkin, there was a few smaller leaves at the bottom of the plant, such as that one, that were not really offering much, looking a bit scraggly, so I'm just going to cut things like that away, starting to turn yellow. This leaf here, starting to look yellow. I think that is all I need to do. On the whole, very healthy looking plant. Really happy with this plant, nice and full. Lots of variegation in the leaves. In my living room here, I have this very large Calafea Elga grass, this is called. So I'm just going to do a tidy up on this plant. As you can see at the bottom, it's got two flowers, one that's spent there. I'm going to cut that off, and one that's still flowering. So I'm going to come through right to the base of this plant where the flower came out and cut that off. Really nice flowers on this plant. Produces these early spring at the end of winter. So there's a new one coming out there. So I'm happy about that, that's very good. But there are a few small straggly leaves on here that just making the plant look a bit untidy. So I'm going to get rid of them. That one looking brown, it's not looking the healthiest. It's actually easier just to pull them out actually with this Calafea. There's another one there. Get rid of that. So you can be quite brutal with your plant when pruning. It won't harm it. It will be putting out new growth during the spring and summer, so don't be shy about cutting away a large leaf like that. If it's not looking good, then feel free to cut away. So I think that's looking a bit healthier. So next up is my Monstera Adansonii, and this is generally looking very healthy. Lots of dark green leaves on this. I've got a care video on this plant, so check out that video, guys. But sometimes with this plant, the new leaves do come out a little bit deformed sometimes. So that one, I've just noticed on this plant, that one has come out looking a bit funny, so don't like the look of that. So I'm just going to cut it out. So it's got a new leaf sprouting from the same point, and then we'll just cut back that little bit there. And that makes the plant look a lot neater. Right then, let's see if these plants need water. So let's check this Syngonium. How's that looking? It's on the dry side, so I'll give that a top up of water. This Birkin is reading 2 on the moisture meter, so I'll top both of these up with water. I do tend to bottom water my houseplants. I've got a video on why I do that, but generally I find it's healthier for the plants. Encourages the roots to go down the pot to search for the water, and that creates a nice healthy root system where it's not strangling the crown of the plant. Also gives an even distribution of moisture to the soil as it wicks up, as the water wicks up through the soil. Gives a much more even distribution than if you were to pour the water over the top of the plant. So down here I've got my little ficus corner, I guess you could say. I've got my rubber tree here, my ficus lyrata or fiddle leaf fig, a little baby one. And then I've got a rather dirty looking Ficus elastica taneki, so let's just check whether these need water. That does, that's reading 1. This fiddle leaf fig, reading 2, so that needs a water. And that one is reading moist, so I'm going to leave that another few days or another week. I'm not going to water that one. So I've got a tray at the bottom of here, so I'm going to top that up with water. Right to the top of the saucer, can take a bit of water that. Does look quite dry at the top of that actually. There's a bit of a crispy leaf on there, so did need some water. So I've got lots of plants down here on this bench that I'm setting up as a plant bench. So this Ficus benjamina doesn't need any water, that's moist. Calophaea zebrinas, they could do with a top up, they're on the dry side. And then I've got this Travescantia tricolor, that's dry. Got this new purchase here, my pickle plant, that's reading dry. So most of these plants do need a water. Cactus at the back, that sounds very crunchy. I'll give that a water. That one needs a water, really nice plant that. Chlorophytum green orange. Got these orange stems and green leaves, really interesting. Recently purchased that from my online store. Chinese money plant needs a water as well, so I think I'll give all these a water. Bottom watering. Try and access that cactus. Fill the reservoir at the bottom. Fill the bottom of this. Just on my windowsill in my dining room, I've got a jade here. That's dry. Another smaller jade cutting, that's dry. Dieffenbachia is dry. This other jade is dry. The other Dieffenbachia is dry. This Bromlea, that's moist, so that's good. That doesn't need a water, I have to remember that. Peperomia nivalis, that is dry. That's a type of succulent, so I don't want to give that too much water. But all of these, apart from that Bromlea, needed watering. So I'm just going to go through and do that. This one doesn't have a nursery pot, it's just straight into the decorative pot, so I can't bottom water that one. This Dieffenbachia is looking a little bit dry. Leaves are feeling a little bit limp as well. So up here I've got a begonia, which is reading dry. Another begonia, that's dry. I think there's a theme here that all of these need a water. This one I top water. Does take a bit of water, this one. So I'll give that a good top up. to try and make room so I can bottom more that one. Check out these ones on my dining room mantle. That one's wet, so that's probably a bit too much moisture in there, so I'll leave that for a good few weeks. That one's moist as well. I think I did water that fairly recently. And that one is just on the cusp of dry and moist. And as it's a calathea, it doesn't like to have dry soil really. I'm just gonna give that a little top up. So my windowsill, I've got a bunch of plants in my living room. Peperomia, raindrop that needs a water. Peperomia needs a water. That one does. That one does. That one does. This Monstera baby plant, that one does. How about this Enjoy? And that one does. All of these plants need a water. So that's all of my plants watered, so I think we'll go ahead and do some up potting of those little plants. Right, so to the up potting. So I've got a few plants here that need up potting. They're just little plants that need to be up potted. So I've got these 3 ones that I purchased from Stupid Egg, my online plant shopping unboxing video. And they're in tiny little pots, and I'm finding that the soil is drying out far too quickly. I think I've watered this twice this week already, so it is drying out very quickly. So I'm going to pot it up into a larger pot. I've got 3 of those ready to go. And then I've got this Peperomia obtusifolia. This is really looking sad. This is a cutting I took last year from the mother plant. And I think it's probably in too small a pot for it now. Got all these new leaves, they're looking quite limp. So I probably don't give this enough light. So I'm gonna up pot it and put it in a much brighter location on a windowsill, probably my east facing windowsill, or maybe my west, so it gets some afternoon sun, because it does like afternoon sun. And then I've got this Peperomia. I think this is a Peperomia teardrop that severely root bound, I reckon, because it's got lots of roots coming out of the top. So we're gonna up pot that. So as with all my houseplants, I've got a nice light mix of compost mixed with perlite. Got some coffee grounds in here as well, just to give it a boost of nitrogen, used coffee grounds. It's one of my houseplant hacks. Check out that video, guys. So I've got about 30% perlite in here, to the rest compost, just to aid the drainage of the mix. You don't want your plants just in compost. It's too dense for it. So I'm going to start with this little marble queen. I'm just going to get it out of this pot. See how the roots are looking. So it's not root bound or anything, but I just think probably not enough soil in here anyway. I'm just gonna put a little bit in the base here. It's an extra chunky bit. So I like to pot up just so the crown of the plant is just underneath the top of the pot. Okay, that's looking quite nice. So now we just need to, in fact, I might just crumble away some of this. All right, so I've got my plant lined up, so I'm just gonna fill in around the plants, so it's nice, even distribution of compost or potting soil around the plant. And there you have it. That is my marble queen up potted. I think that looks much nicer in that pot. This next one is a satin pothos. Not root bound, which is good, as you can see. Just a few roots on there. Just going to discard some of the soil just to make it easier to work with. There we go. So that really is a baby plant. So give it a base of soil. All right, that looks about right. Just fill in around it now. So you don't want to bury the crown of the plant when you're up potting. That won't be good for it. I've got a little baby leaf there. I'm trying not to bury. There you have it. That is my satin pothos. I'll find a saucer for that one as well. And I've got this Tradescantia White Joy, I think that was called. Got some damage on the leaves, so I think I will cut those away while I'm at it, just to tidy it up. Just get rid of some of the excess soil, make it easier to pot up. So I'm just going to cut away that damaged leaf there, that one. Don't want that to spread to other leaves. Right. So I need to plant that relatively high. Just backfill now. And there you have my Tradescantia white joy. It looks a bit more substantial now in that pot, so that'll push out new growth. Got another saucer for it. So those 3 plants look much nicer now. So next on the agenda is this Peperomia obtusifolia cutting I took last year. Feels dry, so that pot was probably too small for it. There's a lot of roots in here. So it's a good job I'm up potting it. Looking quite limp, this plant. Hopefully I can rescue it. All right, what pot do I want to put it in? I'll go that size. It's maybe a little bit too big, but should be okay. It's quite a large plant. It wasn't really too small a pot really. So let's fill the bottom of this. So when you're potting up an obtusifolia, it's really important to have a nice light, well-draining, airy soil mix. Lots of perlite in there because they don't like wet feet, peperomias generally. They kind of hail from the Mediterranean, so they're used to dry soil. But I do need some water, and this guy probably wasn't getting enough water. That's why it's looking quite droopy. There we go. A bit more in proportion now. I'll use that saucer for the time being. So that's my 4th plant done. And then next one was that Peperomia teardrop, I think it's called. So that is really out of proportion with the pot. So I'm going to put it into that one. So I'll put that there. Let's have a look at the damage. Quite dry soil again. Very dry actually. So this is really dry. Been neglecting this quite a bit. There's not enough soil in here. It's quite root bound. Trying to tease them apart, but I feel like I'm breaking the roots because they're so dry. I don't want to destroy the roots of this plant, so I'm not going to disturb it too much. So I'll stick it in there. Let's fill this up with some nice fresh compost for this plant. Hopefully it'll be okay. Nice solid base. How will that look? That'll look okay, I think. Let's backfill around now. So I really like this plant. It's a variegated type of peperomia. It's a trailing type. So it will trail down from the pot, unless you stake it up on something, of course. I really like the variegation in the leaves, the shape of the leaves as well. So there's a lot of advice out there saying to only up pot your plant one size up, but I think you can break that rule sometimes. If the pot is clearly much too small for the plant, like this was, then you can go a couple of sizes bigger, like I have done. It's not going to remember the pot it was in and get all fussy because you've put it in a much bigger pot. It's just going to be happy in that one, I think. So don't worry too much about that. Filling the soil up right to the top for this plant. There you have it. That looks much nicer now. The pot is in proportion to the plant, so that is good. Should start to, because it was slowing down its growth, this plant. Should start to see lots of new growth now. So I will just move this to one side while I bring these in and give them all a good water. Just going to give these a water, even water all around the pot until the water comes out the bottom. So watering your plant will get rid of the air gaps in the soil, so you might start to see some sinking of the soil. If you want to, you can just add a little bit of soil on the top when it sinks down, but it's not sunk down too much with this plant. So I think this is quite a thirsty plant, taking quite a lot of water. There we are, starting to come out the bottom now, so I'll leave that. I think with that one, because it was so dry, normally I would discard the water that's in the saucer straight away, but I think I will let it sit in there for about an hour or so, just to really make sure that that plant is hydrated. So this is my obtusifolia, so I'm just going to do the same again. There we are, starting to come out the bottom. Then I've got my satin pothos here, and my Tradescantia white joy. I'll do my marble queen. So there's no water coming out of these yet, so I'll give them a top up. That one is starting to come out, so I'll put that over there. That one as well, and that one. Once they've finished draining through, I'll go over to my sink and just empty the saucer, and then I'll place them somewhere in my house. My last thing to do today, this Saturday morning, is to just tidy up this snake plant here. A few of these leaves are looking a little bit limp, a little bit sad. This was I think I divided the mother plant and potted it, separated it out and potted it up into various plants, and this was one of them. And I think I got a lot of the young tender leaves that hadn't really thickened up yet. So I think these need cutting out basically. So I'm just gonna go through, cut that at the base, make the plant look a bit more attractive. These stickers are a nuisance sometimes. They stick to my hands all the time. They are good at getting fungus gnats, but they can be quite annoying sometimes. And there's just this other limp one here. Those other ones should be okay. It's leaning a little bit. I'll give it a top up with water. Feels quite dry. And there you have it. That is all my chores done for this weekend. So I've done some watering, done some up potting, I've done some pruning after the winter. So hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Let me know if you did. Let me know in the comments. Give it a thumbs up as well. For your next video, then why not check out that one there, and I'll see you there. Thank you very much for watching.